I'm curious what happens if I isolate a person from, say, the color blue until the age of 10 and then put her in a room full of blue things. Interestingly, there are several colors that formerly didn't exist in other cultures. For example, I think orange was one of them. It was just thought of as red. Anyway, here's the real story. https://www.sapiens.org/language/color-perception/closing parenthesis. What could happen if you conjoin two brains in a way that allows them to communicate? You're in luck. Look up the Hogan twins. They have conjoined brains, can see through each other's eyes, move each other's limbs and reportedly share thoughts. I'd love to see the results of more twin studies done under controlled circumstances, but splitting up twins just because I'm curious about what makes people tick. There's a documentary on Netflix about triplets who were purposely split up when they were babies and given different social circumstances. They end up finding each other randomly years later but don't realize that they were used as an experiment for a while. How many people would I need to throw off the Empire State Building before the pile is big enough for them to survive the fall? You would have to do this multiple times to get the right data, as people survive things differently. Neural transplants want to see someone use someone else's body for a bit. All volunteer. The new host couldn't possibly use my body worse than me. 1. Give a baby a proportioned weight vest all its life, increasing the weight as it gets older. When it's 11, will it be able to jump as high as all the other kids because its body has adapted? If yes, when we take it off, can it jump much higher? 2. How strong can we get a gorilla by giving it a bench press set? I would not support either of these experiments for ethical reasons IRL, but they would be cool. What's unethical about giving a gorilla a bench? See if we can persuade a group of wolves to raise a child. I remember hearing about a study where scientists tried to raise a baby chimp alongside a human baby to see if the monkey would act more like a human. They had to cut the study short because the human started acting too much like a monkey. Dr. Kurt Richter conducted an experiment with rats that essentially concluded that the presence of hope could prolong the ability to stay alive when faced with life-threatening circumstances. During the first part of the experiment, rats were put in a bucket of water. After about 15 minutes, the rat would begin to drown. The scientist plucked the rat out of the bucket of water merely seconds before death. After a couple of days, the scientist repeated this process. However, instead of drowning after 15 minutes of treading water, some of the rats survived for up to 2.5 days. The scientist concluded that the rats were able to continue swimming because they retained the hope of being rescued, as this is what they experienced during the first trial. It would be interesting to see how the concept of hope influences humans under similar circumstances. I'm sure I saw a video of that experiment, or an experiment with the same conditions. Again, fascinating. I'd have to imagine there'd be a similar result with human subjects. It would be cool if we could somehow bring back different species of human that went extinct. Like Neanderthals, Denisovans, etc. And see how they differ, if at all, from us if raised in a modern society. It's been talked about, but likely will never happen due to ethical concerns. Ethical, not technical? Are you saying the technology is available? How a child would turn out with exactly zero human contact, just very basic necessities met by robots. It would be interesting to see exactly how animalistic we are at the core. Depends if the robots were also cuddly. For real, the basic Psych 101 studies with monkeys showed they would rather cuddle with a metal mommy who has a towel for a belly than go to another metal mommy that holds their bottle. Lol, it's pretty legit research. I'd create an exact clone of me as a baby and send him to be raised somewhere else, by people who are as different from my parents as I can find, then meet up with him once he's, say, 30, and see how differently we turned out in terms of personality. Edit. Thanks for the silver, kind stranger. Have you ever looked up cases of identical twins that had been separated at birth and living completely separate lives with adoptive or foster parents and then met each other later in life? That's surely been documented? Or would it have to be a clone of yourself? I'd like to know how much of a human body could be replaced by cybernetics. I imagine we could make a good enough equivalent to quite a few organs, but other organs I doubt could be replaced as easily. It would also be interesting to see the mental impact of having so much of your body replaced. Edit. Glad to know people found my idea worthwhile enough to comment and upvote, and I'm loving all the ideas that y'all had as a response. If you replace enough, then you don't need the cybernetics to resemble the organs at all. Bro, I want some crackheads to play sports. If a Finnish guy in WW2 can ski high off crack for 15 days, I really want to see what modern crackheads can do. Start modifying random genes to see if we could create superpowers. Shit, we got cancer man again. My brother and I have talked a lot about a special version of the Olympics where the competitors can use whatever and however many performance-enhancing drugs they want just to push the absolute limits of what humans can do. We figure it probably wouldn't pan out though, since most of the athletes would probably just push themselves to death. This was basically pre-1960s Olympics. Haha. https://www.google.com/amp/s/amp.thegUardian.com/science/blog/2016/jules/21/the-lead-of-poison-and-brandy-of and then raising myself. My first thought was she'd be a mess. She needed some fucked up shit to realize she could make it. But then I thought, without all the fucked up shit she wouldn't need to realize she could make it. She'd just live a normal life, apart from being a clone. If you had 5 families living in one house and there were 5 kids each, all born the same day, same gender, etc., and the parents never once spoke to the child. All 5 sets of parents spoke their own language. Let's just say Russian, English, Chinese, Spanish, and German. And the kids grew up hearing all of that but never being spoken to. What language would the children learn, or would they learn any? It's been a while, but I remember hearing once that a lot of our language learning as young children is based off of how people respond to them. When parents respond physically or verbally to things they try and say, it's that cements the language learning. Selective breeding of humans. We made wolves into all the different kinds of dogs. Let's see what weird shit we could make with ourselves. Edit. Yes, I'm aware of Hitler's eugenics, and no, that's not really what I had in mind. Eugenics was motivated almost purely by Rossicum. I was thinking something more like this. https://www.boardpanda.com/humans-reimagined-as-animals-Satoshi-Kawasaki/?UTM_source =Google and UTM_medium =organic and UTM_campaign =organic. Given some of the worst of dog breeds, just check out the old Habsburgs. Magnificent chin and a complete inability to survive without outside help. How many people would be willing to participate in incentive-based eugenics? i.e., you get a timeshare in Florida if you promise to never have kids. Sign me up for the No Kid Club. Finding out more about the Sentinelese language and culture. Yes, I agree that we should leave them alone, not force them to integrate into our society, etc. But it would be fascinating to send a drone or drones with hidden cameras and sound recorders there. Perhaps this would have to be a very well disguised drone, maybe disguised as a bird or something. Maybe that would work, as the neighboring tribes are known to have a taboo against eating birds, and we are somewhat certain that the Sentinelese have some degree of cultural similarity. And the drone would be sterilized of pathogens, of course. I agree that they should be left alone, but damn if that isn't an intriguing tribe. There's so much I want to learn about them. Language, relationships, belief system, dwellings or communal living. any desire to rebel, etc. If we're getting political, organize a project where groups of people identifying with the same political belief govern a small region, city, county with full political control. So observing how a 100% leftist city would fare, and what a centrist city would do compared to a far-right city. I'd be curious if those people would either start splintering into different sections, or harmonize into one big group, and if they'd fare relatively well or if they started to veer into extremism. On a much smaller scale, this was done with kids at camp. They found that for the most part, each camp cabin had naturally forming roles: the leader, the comic, etc. So they regrouped the kids by role and changed up their cabins. Turns out that kids would then take up different roles when you put all the same type together. Human head transplant onto a gorilla body. Isn't human head transplant, even to human body, still a work in progress? The super soldier serum. Basically steroids but without the heart problems. I would like to be able to make the show Big Brother, but with all the ethical controls taken off. I want to be able to control the weather, night, day, their concept of time. Remove the knowledge as to when it will end, be able to lie to them, etc. etc. It would be interesting, but evil as hell. Pretty close to the latest seasons of Australian BB. The last few have been way less of, let's watch these people fight and fuck, and much of a social experiment. One of the challenges had them in a brightly colored room for 10 hours with the first verses of If You're Happy and You Know It playing loudly, on repeat for the whole duration. Give a human baby to apes, monkeys to raise. I wonder if they will reject the child, or if they will think it's one of them, and raise it, teach it how to get food, climb trees, etc. IIRC. There was an experiment where the opposite happened and a baby ape was raised along with a human baby. The experiment ended when the child started acting like the ape. Leave a bunch of babies in an isolated area alone. Obviously feed them and stuff, but do not intervene otherwise and see how they develop a language. I read about some place where deaf children developed their own sign language when they were raised together without any other language being taught to them. I can't remember the details. Let me see if I can Google FUIT. Edit. Nicaraguan Sign Language. https://en.m.wikipedia.org/wiki/Nicaraguan_sign_language . Literally anything to do with nutrition. It's difficult to study nutrition because you can't actually control what they eat. You have to rely on what participants tell you. To really ensure compliance, you'd have to lock them in a room and feed them for the duration. Some studies literally do lock you in a room for a month and then monitor everything you do from sleep to exercise. I got offered $6,000 in college to do it over the summer at a biomedical research center. Couldn't though cause of another opportunity.